Let's begin today's story in Palpatine's office. Mace Windu has just been murdered and Anakin is storming the Jedi Temple. Sidious opens his comlink and executes Order 66, purging the Jedi Order by turning the entire clone army against the Jedi. On Cato Nemoidia, Plo Koon's troopers turned against him, firing their weapons at the Keldor Jedi. Plo Koon evaded the fire in his starship before landing and exiting the craft. He attempted to reason with his troops on the ground, but they raised their blasters and tried to kill him. With his heavy heart, Plo Koon raised his blue lightsaber and began slicing down his comrades. As the blaster bolts flew towards him, tears rushed down his cheeks and he murdered each one of his clones. He couldn't escape the weight of the situation, confused about the motives behind his troopers' actions. Plo sliced down the final clone in his regiment. He couldn't understand the betrayal. After years of fighting alongside each other, they tried to kill him, and he knew that something was wrong. Plo Koon could sense that he wasn't the only Jedi to experience this. This had happened everywhere. As Plo stood there, witnessing the carnage that had taken place, he pulled out his comlink and contacted the secret Jedi Council line, hoping for any messages. He waited, as no one replied. Kit Fisto was silent. Oppo Rancisis was dead. He just needed one person to confirm their status. Just before Plo ended the call, Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi responded, explaining that he was just about to make contact with Master Yoda, but they feared they were the only ones left. Kenobi sent through his coordinates and told Plo to meet up with them. The events would follow suit. Plo Koon found Obi-Wan and Yoda, who decided that they needed to go back to the Jedi Temple, removing the signal calling all Jedi back as it was a massacre. At the temple, they discovered that Obi-Wan's apprentice, Anakin Skywalker, was responsible for the sacking of the Order, that the Sith Lord, Darth Sidious, had manipulated the boy into doing his bidding, and he was now consumed by darkness. In this pivotal moment, Yoda orders Obi-Wan and Plo to locate Anakin and defeat him, whilst he fights Sidious. Obi-Wan would travel to Padme, where he would tell her about Anakin's fate, causing Kenobi and Plo to sneak aboard her ship. This is where the story changes, as Anakin chokes Padme to the floor after believing she is more loyal to her master. Plo emerges next to Obi-Wan. When Anakin looks up at them, he doesn't feel any fear, only anger. His arrogance was exemplified as he ignited his blue lightsaber, ready to combat the Jedi whom he hated so much. The three swung for each other as colors flashed across the lava plain. Anakin's seething anger and power became evident as he managed to knock Obi-Wan back with a mighty force push. Obi-Wan staggered, his blue lightsaber temporarily extinguished as he struggled to regain his footing. With anger in his eyes, Anakin advanced on Obi-Wan, determined to deliver the final blow. However, in the critical moment of decision, Plo Koon unleashed the devastating technique known as Electrical Judgment. A surge of yellow force lightning enveloped Anakin, powered by Plo's determination for justice, causing him to contract and collapse to the floor, wrecked by excruciating pain. The Electrical Judgment surged throughout Anakin's body, incapacitating him and leaving him defeated, but not dead. His limbs twitched, his body spasming, and his voice erupted in anguished cries as the overwhelmed power of the technique immobilized him, temporarily disabled the dark side's hold on his being, rendering him unconscious. Anakin had been defeated. They placed him and Padme on the ship. Two lovers lay next to each other as they headed to Polar Massa to get healed. Palpatine knew for a fact that he hadn't seen the last of Yoda. He would surely come back along with any remaining Jedi. He needed reinforcements, other Force users who could help assure his ascendancy. He recruited the relentless Darth Maul, whose thirst for vengeance made him an ideal weapon against the Jedi. Maul has been promised a position at his side if he succeeds. Next, he sought out the disillusioned Barriss Offee, exploiting her anger at the Order that she believed was corrupt and gave her a new purpose. Lastly, Palpatine recruited the Grand Inquisitor, a former temple guard whom Palpatine had been in contact with prior to the Purge. Together, these dark disciples would ensure Sidious's rule over the galaxy. As the Jedi arrived on Polis Massa, they met up with Yoda, who had lost his duel to Palpatine. He was devastated, believing that he had failed the Republic and Jedi Order, but Plo told him to calm himself. They might still have a chance. Padme was rushed into a medical bay where she gave birth to twins called Luke and Leia. As she came in and out of consciousness, Obi-Wan was there, explaining to her everything was alright, but all she cared about was Anakin. She was heartbroken at the thought that he was gone forever, but Obi-Wan assured her that Anakin was alive, in the next room, and there was still hope to save him. In this story, he hadn't sustained dire injuries from the lava. He was just temporarily injured from the electrical judgment and rendered unconscious from Plo Koon. Padme asked to see Anakin, to which Kenobi quickly refused until Yoda tapped Obi-Wan, saying they should let the married couple speak. Anakin enters her room, hugging and kissing Padme. Anakin was hit with a multitude of emotions. As he gazed upon the fragile, innocent faces of his children, he felt his own heartbeat. Seeing the woman he loved, who had endured so much because of him and their precious offspring, made him realize the depth of his mistakes. But most importantly, he believed she would die in childbirth, and this is what Palpatine had been telling him all along, that only if they worked together and used the dark side would his family survive. He lied to him. His children were never in danger. Tears rolled up in his eyes. He had been manipulated and used like a dog. Anakin knew that he couldn't let the dark side consume him any longer. At this moment, he looked out the glass at Obi-Wan, Plo Koon, and Yoda. Anakin Skywalker had returned to the light side of the Force. The Jedi Masters could sense a shift within him, and although reluctant to work with him, they all understood they needed his abilities to defeat Sidious once and for all. They can temporarily overlook the atrocities he has committed to deal with the pressing threats. As they contemplated what to do next, they knew that they had to confront Sidious, catching him off guard as he didn't expect a retaliation this soon. The Force knocked back onto Coruscant undetected, knowing the remaining stealth was essential for this to work. There was no chance that Palpatine could defeat all four of them, including Anakin, who had chosen one abilities. Padme remained at Polis Massa, recuperating after the pregnancy, and Bail Organa prepared for the aftermath of Palpatine's death. The Jedi went to Palpatine's Senate office, knowing for a fact that the crippled old Emperor would be there. As they entered and each ignited their lightsabers, Palpatine stood to his feet, not showing any sign of fear or intimidation. He was visibly furious about Anakin turning back to the light, but knew at the end of the day, his work with Anakin was done. He completed what he wanted him to do, and he had control over the galaxy. As Sidious stares at the Jedi, he becomes accompanied by Maul, Barriss Offee, and the Grand Inquisitor, each powerful in their own right. This would be a duel for the ages. Maul began the conflict, leaping forward and swinging furious strikes towards Obi-Wan, pushing him to the brink. But Obi-Wan's defensive mastery allowed him to endure, waiting for the right moment. Meanwhile, Plo Koon engaged Barriss Offee, their blue and red blades intertwining in a battle of unequal strength. The turning point came as Plo recognized the futility of trying to reason with Barriss, who had long been consumed by the dark side. With a heavy heart, he channeled the Force through his fingertips, sending a surge of electrical judgment through Barriss's body and killing her. The remorse in his eyes was evident as he ended her threat. Obi-Wan's patience finally paid off, as he exploited a momentary opening in Maul's relentless assault. Maul was too aggressive and acting with emotion, making his dueling abilities weak compared to the defensive Obi-Wan. With a swift, calculated strike, Obi-Wan's blue blade pierced Maul's defenses, ending the Sith's reign of chaos. Yoda and Obi-Wan, facing the Grand Inquisitor, combined their strengths. The Jedi Master's agility synchronized with Anakin's raw power, overwhelming their adversary. The Grand Inquisitor's red blade was extinguished, and the weakest being in the room fell to the floor dead. The remaining 4 Jedi stood united against the Sith Lord, Darth Sidious. His malevolent crackles of lightning reverberated throughout the chamber. The battle reached its climax as they orchestrated a synchronized assault, their lightsabers flashing, swinging with power and skill. Sidious fought with terrifying ferocity, his force lightning emanating around him. But the Jedi were far too powerful for Sidious, and he couldn't kill them all together. He was dueling 4 of the most powerful beings alive at this point, and he could not survive. Darth Sidious fell, vanquished at last, and the chamber fell silent. The Jedi, battered but victorious, had defeated the dark side and restored balance to the Force. While the damage to the Republic itself had been contained, the Jedi Order was left in disarray, their numbers decimated. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Plo Koon, and Yoda faced the daunting task of rebuilding the Order to its former glory. As for Anakin Skywalker, he was left with a difficult choice. In exchange for avoiding imprisonment, he and Padme Amidala were required to leave the Republic behind. Their path led them to the far reaches of the Outer Rim, where they would live the rest of their lives in exile, accompanied by their twin children, Luke and Leia. Anakin was responsible for the complete devastation of the Jedi Order and Republic, but because he also played an extremely pivotal point in saving the galaxy, his sentencing was reduced. The galaxy, free from the grip of the dark side, began to heal and rebuild with the help of the new Chancellor Bail Organa and the remnant Jedi Order. But the scars of the Clone Wars and the Sith tyranny would forever linger in their collective memory. Anakin and Padme were able to find comfort knowing that they had each other, their love and family for the rest of their lives. Thank you guys for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like and comment below what you would like for me to cover next. May the Force be with you.